Hello and welcome to episode 204 of This Week of Gear Report for the 11th of April, 2024. We have got an exciting show for you today. I'm sure you're going to love it. You're going to want to stick around because, typically we have Kevin, suppressorman.com, who is the quiet hustler. He's the dark and quiet hustler today, I guess. Are you driving? You're not driving, are you? See, this bit's getting old, Kevin. Every week he comes on, he leaves himself muted, so we have to call out that he has suppressed himself.
No, I'm down in Fort Stewart, Georgia tonight, working with.
Wow. All right.
So I dropped in for a few minutes to say hi and to introduce you to Tommy, who we met out at the gathering. Right?
Yes,
absolutely.
And so, absolutely excited to link up with you guys and to get Tommy on the show and to hear a little bit more about what he's doing.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that introduction and appreciate you sneaking out in your camouflage after dark, breaking curfew, no doubt, because you're a rebel. We appreciate you, Kevin. So thanks for the introduction. Thanks for stopping by. Stay as long as you like. Leave when you have to. Whatever you need to do. We appreciate you.
You bet, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, happy to have you here. And Tommy, welcome to the program. Kevin met you at the gathering, and I don't think we bumped into each other this time. We made it just a day trip this time, and didn't make it around to see quite everyone like we normally would. So
it was such a big event. You could have 20 people there you knew and never even see them. It was huge, much larger than I thought it was going to be.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And so when the gathering started, this was the fourth year of the gathering. The first one, I think we were there for 4 days that time. And one of the days got canceled because tornadoes were coming through. But we stayed busy pretty much most of the time. Yeah. It was a little long. So being a 2-day event this time, and we only came for one, but I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. It's a neat event, and we appreciate it. But every year they try to reinvent it and do something different with it.
Yeah, I was impressed. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, cool. So thanks for being here. How about an introduction? Who you are, who you're with, and we can start to define the scope of things we can talk about and see where we go from there. And look at that, Flying Rich is out there giving us the three yos. That's like our standard greeting on this program. I don't even know why. We've been doing it for so long that yo just Rich may have started it, actually, come to think of it, a few years ago. But anyhow, Rich is out there. I'm sure we'll have other people pop in at some point.
Awesome. Well, yo. My name is Tommy Dimsdale. I'm with the National Association for Gun Rights. I'm a regional director for NAGR. And I am the executive director for Palmetto Gun Rights. That's their state-run affiliate. So we got national, we've got our states, like we got one in Florida, Pennsylvania, several other states out there. And then we've also got a foundation, which is the legal side. But I know me and Kevin just kind of hooked up at the event, started talking politics. And I can talk politics for probably as long as you want to. We got some real gun guys. I know our president, Dudley Brown, he loves long range shooting. He'll sit here and talk to you about gear all day. But, I've always been drawn to politics and doing what's right, seeing that there's something that needs to be done. And you know what? The Constitution is just a piece of paper if there's not people there to defend it. And that's what we do. So thank you for bringing the website up. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and we got both of them. So what I'm going to do here, and any site we pull up, I try to remember to drop the URL out there. So let's see, we'll put that one. GearReport.com posted that one, and then we'll hit your other site here, and we'll post that one. And there we go. Gear Report Firearms is going to share that link for us.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it.
Those are out in the comments if anyone would like to get to those, either live or in replay. You'll be able to find those down there.
So, yeah, I wanted to come on last week and had a little bit of emergency I had to do. We got something called faculty training. That's a Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership training, and I just wrapped up my training on that like 2 weeks ago, and just getting out of a hot fight in South Carolina where we just passed constitutional carry, and I got to go and teach my first class down in Prosperity, South Carolina, and it was awesome. If you've ever heard of the Foundation for Applied Conservative Leadership, it is definitely worth checking out. I mean, it reinvented everything I thought about politics. We teach you how to really put your hands on the lever of government and make things go. Teaching activists, from the ground up, whether that be all the way down to county council and your school board, all the way up to, the federal level. It is fantastic training. It was all day training too. So I appreciate you having some levity with me on that, because definitely had to get my butt in gear, because I had like 2 days notice to get an 8-hour program just kind of put together. So
yeah, no worries.
There it is. There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're ever wanting to make a difference in politics, you can look up a class right there, and it is absolutely fantastic. Like I said, it changed my life, and this is kind of how we do political operations at the National Association for Gun Rights. We go on this model of confrontational politics. We're not there to appease the politicians; they work for us. So, but other than that, I don't know if you have any specific questions for me or anything to kind of get the ball rolling. But I mean, I'm an open book.
Well, I think a good place to start would be National Association for Gun Rights. Sounds like a very descriptive name, but we have in this country a variety of organizations that purport to promote gun rights in one way or another. And I'll leave it to you how you would like to approach this. I'm going to throw one under the bus right away and tell you that we generally support anyone who supports our rights and wants to promote our rights and protect our rights. With that in mind, I have kind of fallen out of love with the NRA because I don't feel like they're really doing that much anymore. They certainly do not seem to want to follow that confrontational model that you suggested. There's some other ones that we love that we do some stuff with, and I like having multiple dogs in the fight, so to speak. But where in that landscape would you say that your organizations, your state organization and the larger national one, where would you say those fall?
Well, first of all, you beat me to it. Second of all, last time I checked, we're over 4 million members, 4.5 million. I think we're second to the NRA. I think probably our biggest downfall is, we're running program in these states, and it's kind of the point where, if you don't have an elected official, or it has been, we've been getting better at it, but if you don't have an elected official that has voted wrong, you might not know of us so much, because the money that, you send to NAGR, or Palmetto Gun Rights, if you live in South Carolina, that's going, to fight the good fight. And it's going to mailers, text messages, emails, and all that stuff costs money. If you don't have money, you can't fund your program. And we've had to spend quite a bit to get constitutional carry passed in South Carolina. That was a knockdown, drag out fight. But, you're right about, the NRA, and I'm not just here to talk trash. They've, even at the state level, I've had to really rack my brain, because it always seems like they want to show up to the meeting room and think, well, if gun control is going to pass, we want to have our fingers on it. We want to have our fingers in it. We want to be at the table. We don't, NAGR, Palmetto Gun Rights, we don't want to be at that table. We flip the table over, tell the politicians, if you vote for gun control, there are serious political consequences that will ensue, and we're going to let your voters know about it. We're not in the, working these backroom deals with smoke-filled rooms. And I mean, whenever you start compromising on the Second Amendment, that is extremely, extremely dangerous. And that's why we've been growing so much, is because, we're the largest no compromise gun rights organization in the nation. And, we fight gun control. We don't compromise.
Right. I'm liking what I'm hearing here. So, and that message, that message is a lot of the reason why I have I don't know your organization as well as I know GOA,
right?
As far as
they're great guys too,
and I like that you both have that same kind of no compromise message. And this is where I really want to say it again. I want to encourage people, if there are folks out there doing good things, I don't care if we have 20 organizations all fighting the same good fight, fighting for the right things. I want to support all of them. Of course, I want to put more resources towards the ones that I think are most effective and are taking the approach that I appreciate the most, which is why, if I need to renew my RSO certification and I have to be a part of NRA, maybe I'll do that. And I'm going to support the education side of what they're doing. But then I want to work with organizations like yours and some of the others that are doing the right things, and maybe not so much the ones that are all compromise driven. So I really appreciate you sharing some of that, because I've known more about GOA and less about you guys, but it sounds like I just hadn't been paying attention in some of the right circles. So I'm glad that you're kind of opening my eyes there. So you said that you have the national organization, and then you have in some states like the Palmetto Gun Rights. Can you talk a little bit about, like, are you in all states? Do you have, regional, state, sub-state? How are things split up? And let's start with that.
Absolutely. So, if there's a particular state that we've, especially if we've got someone on the ground there, that's a good reason for us to go ahead and get an actual group started within the state. The people that are there, I've lived in Spartanburg, South Carolina my entire life. So I know a lot of the politicians here. I already have a little bit of inroads whenever they hired me. But yeah, we've got Palmetto Gun Rights, Pennsylvania Gun Rights, Florida Gun Rights, Texas Gun Rights. Texas Gun Rights is doing exceedingly well. And, I'm here to tell you, as far as I've seen across the board in all of these states, as maybe a gun owner, you might think, oh, well, that state's got good gun laws or that state doesn't. Human nature is largely the same, and the politicians are mostly all the same. When we go through our training, we've got this whole list of things that politicians are going to tell you as to why they can't push a pro-gun bill or why they can't get away from supporting an anti-gun bill. And you can just check mark off everything. They all say exactly the same thing. You don't know how things work here. That's not how we do things here. We can't come off as too extreme. And, the political class, they've been doing this a long, long time. They know how to get you to shut up. They know how to get you to go away. And when you don't, that's when they really freak out. They're going to come back at you. They're going to threaten you. And they do not like being held accountable. And we're seeing a lot of that in South Carolina right now. We're seeing a lot of it all over the place. But like I said, I'm really proud of Palmetto Gun Rights. We just wrapped up a constitutional carry battle that's been going on for over a decade. I think probably about 12 years. Senator Lee Bright was the first one to introduce a constitutional carry law bill, and it's taken us this long. We got super majorities in this state, and we've had super majorities for a long time. And it kind of makes you scratch your head on, well, why can't we pass something as common sense as constitutional carry? Why can't we do that? And the real news is the political class gives cover to each other. Sometimes it's easier to pass a pro-gun law where there are fewer Republicans in the state. But right here, we've got a bunch of coastal Republicans, and because they've got an R beside their name, well, leadership has to take care of them too, and has to cave and give them things. That is a wall right there of the 9 Republicans that voted against, the 8 Republicans. One had passed away recently, so we took that off. But that had formerly voted against constitutional carry back in 2021. Now, because of our intense grassroots pressure, our confrontation, our mobilization, most of the people here actually voted right for it. Sandy Senn, Michael Johnson, Henry Gustafson, Sean Bennett, Greg Hembry, they voted right for it. But let me tell you, it took a ton of grassroots pressure, and it's never ceased to amaze me just how much arm twisting there has to be to get them to push the right button, just to do the right thing. But we're still down here dealing with Luke Rankin and Chip Campson, who refuse to stand up for gun owners and protect our rights. But it's been a real slog. I'm very happy it's over, but we got a primary season coming up, and
right.
There's a lot of accountability to be held there as well. So we're looking forward to that.
Wow. So how deep do I want to get into this? Here at GearReport, we do a lot of different things. Like we've got, I think, 7 different video channels, each one on a different topic. The firearms channel being one of them. Another one of our channels is the GearReport Humvee channel, and that's the military vehicles, the Humvees. We just received our 4th one here at headquarters. I'll do them as a project. So we did one,
That's
sold
awesome.
it, used the funds to buy the second one, did a bunch of upgrades, sold it, used the funds to buy the third one, got impatient, hadn't sold the third one yet. I already bought the 4th one and I'm working on that. It took, what did it take? 6, maybe 7 years to get our state to allow you to title former military vehicles cleanly. They had, like, you could do it if you knew the right people and if you did it this way, and people got it done. But then
a lot of bureaucracy.
You go and they're like, nope, we can't do it. And it all depended on what your local person said and these little fiefdoms. And I'll tell you what, going through that process of over and over explaining to people and hearing them say, oh yeah, I 100% agree with you, but I can't help you. Just what you were just saying.
Right.
That I have worked for local, state, local, county, state, federal government. I've done a lot of things, and I thought I was as cynical as I could get. But trying to take something that was very simple, common sense, everyone agreed with me. Oh yeah, we agree. This is messed up. It's a catch-22. It's a big circular argument. Like, this is something that we should be able to fix administratively because it doesn't make sense. And no one would. And eventually I threw my hands up. I left a truck sitting beside my house for a year, didn't touch it because, like,
that's such a shame.
Tag. And then someone reached out to me and said, hey, I heard you've been fighting this fight. I got a friend that's on the transportation committee, state senator or congressman, whatever. I don't remember. If you'll share with me all that information and give me a summary of what needs to happen, I'll present it to him. A week later, I get a note. Yeah, it's done. And I'm like, this process is so jacked up. And we found that the DMV here in North Carolina has these different kingdoms within it. And they will just drive their heel in the ground and say, absolutely not. Well, why? Because that's what we do. That's how we do it. And I look at this and I think, okay, I was fighting for something that was comparatively meaningless, right? Being able to purchase and get a former military vehicle on the road is at best a luxury, right? This is not like, I have some innate right that I was born with to do this. Although maybe you could probably argue that they don't have a right to prevent me from doing it, but it's not in the same ballpark as the type of things you're fighting for. Right. I saw the ridiculous objections and, well, no, I just can't help you because, and I think, okay, as demoralizing as that was, as beat down as I felt dealing with that, dealing with something much more important and much more heartfelt, I think that I guess where I'm going is I can't imagine what it takes to continue fighting that fight. I mean, every win, you've got to celebrate it and really get some energy from it because like you have got to be beating your head up against the wall 98% of the time.
It feels like it. Well, I mean, that's one thing that we teach a lot in our training. And I think that's partly what's wrong with the conservative movement, or at least the grassroots right now is and I'm paraphrasing a quote from our training, but I'll get as close as I can. It basically says, conservatives, they look at each individual crisis, each individual political issue as an issue within itself. And they don't build upon it and build upon it and build upon it. See, what the left does is they have spent decades fighting losing battles, and they've seen value in it. And because they have fought losing battles, now all of a sudden, not to get in the weeds and too much other stuff, now you've got transvestites who are reading books to children in libraries, and we're sitting here scratching our heads like, how in the world did that ever happen? Now we just got Joe Biden said we need universal background checks for all states from a federal level. And we're scratching our heads. How did that happen? It's because they were willing to fight losing battles for long enough. And when you do that and you build your list, you build your money, you build your organizations out, you gain strength by fighting good fights. And that's the problem. We look at a fight and we say, man, I don't know if I can take that on because, I don't think I've got the political capital to do that. If you're fighting the right fight, you will gain political capital, because the Republican Party, they don't gain people whenever they're caving on immigration, when they're caving on gun rights, when they're caving on the budget. Nobody's signing up for the Republican Party because they're excited about them. They're leaving the Republican Party. And if you take on those losing fights, whether you lose or win, if you stay with it and you have the tenacity to do so, eventually you're going to win. Now, it takes a long time. You can ask the left. It takes a long time. You can ask us. It does. But the problem is we're so easily bought off with the excuses from politicians. We're easily bought off with access of a politician returning our phone call. It makes us feel good, maybe a politician invites you out to dinner or some fancy banquet or something like that. And when you do those kind of things, you're giving up your power to that politician. Because what happens is you get addicted to that access and you become someone who is never a political threat to that politician, because you think, well, if I confront him, if I tell people that he's voting wrong, if I, expose what he's doing in the State House, well, then I'm going to lose my access. I'm going to lose his ear. I won't be invited to the banquet next year. So sure. I got to play nice. We're not about that. This is the confrontation and mobilization model, the confrontation of politics, the confrontation of politicians and the mobilization of people. We've got a saying, if you're not politically feared, you're not politically respected. And that doesn't mean that you got to go and be a jerk to everybody down at the Capitol. I'll go down there and I'm friendly with everybody I can be, but they know if they vote wrong, guess what? You're going to get mailers in your district. You're going to get people calling your phone and blowing up your inboxes at work. Like, it's going to there are going to be repercussions. I've heard more than one politician say, well, Tommy, and of course, it's usually politicians who are trying to explain away a bad vote, right? They're saying, well, Tommy, I'm the most pro-gun representative in Columbia, or I'm the most pro-gun representative in Raleigh. How can you say this about me? Do you know how many guns I have in my safe? And I look at them and I say, we don't look at how many guns you've got in your safe. We don't care if you've got an A+ rating with the NRA. We care about your vote. And that's it. I'm not going to audit how many guns you have. If you don't vote right, there are going to be repercussions for it. And eventually what we do is we link the legislative and the election season together. So many conservatives, they make a lot of noise during the legislative season. They need to vote against red flag. They need to vote for constitutional carry. We'll be back. And they just say, okay, we'll be back and we're going to go to the polls. But they don't mobilize people during the election season when it really matters. This is the most perilous time for a politician. And to expose their bad votes on things during that time when they're most vulnerable, that's how you get real change. And that's why I'm excited about my job. The good Lord has tasked me with, being involved in politics, and the day he relieves me, I'll happily go. But for right now, we've got a battle. And this is such an important one because gun rights, that's what protects everything else. You can look back to Australia when the lockdowns happened. They had military lockdowns over there. They had military going to pounds and lining the dogs up and shooting them because they thought that people with a heart might leave their homes to go rescue the dogs. That's how insane things are if you don't have gun rights. And of course, you can look through history and see that it's even much worse than that. But that's what's helping to keep corruption down, out of control taxation, federal land grabs, stuff like that. They still do these things, but they can't do them as much as they would like. And that's why they are coming after the guns. That's why Joe Biden just said we need universal background checks, which, if you want an explanation on that, it is a de facto gun registration scheme.
Right.
That's why this is so important that we fight these battles.
Yeah. Well, you had to know several years ago when the BLM stuff was happening out west, and people showed up with guns and said no, and the federal government stood down. You had to know when that happened that that was going to drive them completely crazy, and they were going to try to do what they could to make sure that citizens couldn't stand up to the government again.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And you know, people try to turn it around like, well, you don't need guns or whatever. And or if a leftist brings that up, of course they all hate Donald Trump. And I'm not a huge Trump guy, but you know, whatever. I will use this argument like, okay, what if Trump became a tyrant like you think he's going to be? What if he starts, you know, rounding up homosexuals? What if he starts, you know, arresting all of his political adversaries? What are you going to be able to do about it at that point? And you kind of turn it around like that. Now, like I said, I don't believe it. I definitely don't believe that's going to happen. But, you know, for the sake of the argument, they really don't have a whole lot to say after that, because you're putting it back in their lap. You know, you never give governments power that they could eventually use against you.
Yeah. I mean, history is pretty clear that it's just a matter of time. You give away too much power, and you know, virtually unlimited power attracts people who really want to have virtually unlimited power. And some of them really want it to do things that are good. Some of them want to do it for things that are bad. Some of them think they're doing good, but they're just idiots. And, you know, you can't take that power back when you realize, oh, wow, we put this person in and they have nefarious ideas, you know, motivations, or, you know, they told us they knew what they were doing, but I think they're an idiot. But now they got all this power and we can't do anything about it, you know?
Exactly. But so, you know, that's, you know, once you give those freedoms up, you were saying that, you know, it's hard to get them back. And likewise, you know, with like constitutional carry for gun owners to take on. And for those of you who don't know, constitutional carry, like the real definition of constitutional carry, says that if you can legally possess a firearm, so therefore you're not a minor, you're not a felon, you haven't done anything to give up your rights, but you know, you have your God-given right to possess a firearm. If you can legally possess a firearm, you should be able to legally carry it to protect yourself and your family in public without jumping through government hoops, without paying expensive fees, without waiting 45, 90 days. I think you said in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
So your guys, I think it's 45 days waiting period, I believe, before you get your CWPs back. You know, but the thing is we give governments these rights and then buy them back at a premium. And people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a permit. Well, I remember I went to, I was down in Columbia, and I was arguing back and forth with this Democrat during testimony, and I have a sea of red shirts behind me. Moms Demand Action, like there's 100 of them in the room, and I'm the only one there. And he starts going back and forth, and the key is to really just take the moral argument away from them, and this the moral high ground. And this is a real world situation. And I said, look, you know, if someone in your family or my family, God forbid, come under the threat of physical violence from someone. I mean, let's say, you know, I don't want to get too personal. Let's just leave your daughter or your wife. And maybe they grew up around guns. They know how to handle guns. They're very proficient with it. And they get a stalker. They get an ex-boyfriend. They have somebody that's a disgruntled coworker. Well, guess what? They need that protection now. They don't have time to sit and, you know, depending on how busy it is in your area, to schedule a class out 2 to 4 weeks and then wait an additional 45, or in South Carolina's instance, 90 days while their possible assailant is out there who doesn't care about the law. He simply doesn't care. It doesn't matter if they've been trained, if that they know what they do and they know the laws. Our government permitting systems are saying, no, you have to wait while this person gets to do whatever they want to do. And what's even worse than that, in case in South Carolina, and North Carolina is pretty similar, I think, I'll have to look it up. If said woman decides, you know what, I'm getting nervous, I've seen this guy around the house, I've seen him when I go out shopping, I need to carry my gun. Those draconian permitting systems actually believe that she should serve time in jail.
Hmm.
In South Carolina, it was up to a year and like $1,000 fine. I think in North Carolina, you actually got to do some community service for it.
Huh.
That's not just unconstitutional, Jeff.
Right.
That's downright immoral in my book, you know. And that's why we're fighting, you know, some of these. We're taking that fight to some of these states. We got 29 passed, and hopefully, I'm right down here in South Carolina. My next target is probably North Carolina to get this pro-gun legislation passed and free you guys up. And of course, absolutely, you need to go get training. I'm probably going to go get some training that goes above and beyond what the CWP teaches. That's crucial, but we don't need a government saying, no, you have to pay fees, you have to take our courses, and you have to wait. That's not right.
Well, and I would also, if we go back to this screen that we had up earlier here, I'll tell you what I think about the universal background checks or background checks in general. And I'll tell you what, I remember a few years ago, I got in a pretty vocal public fight online, not like in person, with a couple other gun writers who told me, one of them actually told me I was an embarrassment to the firearms community because I said that I don't support background checks at all, let alone universal. I think that,
wow.
And they're like, well, you're not fit to have a gun at all if that's how you feel.
That's
and
nuts.
what it came down to is one of these writers had a husband that had abused her decades ago, and therefore she felt like he shouldn't have one, and they needed a system to make sure he couldn't have a gun. And I said, okay, well, let's look at this. You remember a few years ago, who was it? It was Barry. Mr. Obama had put a Surgeon General in place who had classified the desire to own guns as a mental illness. Like he'd come out and said, you're crazy. Like all these people, they're messed up. Like we need to start treating this as a medical, like a mental health issue for all these people who have to have guns. Well, if we have universal background checks, then it's up to whoever is giving the thumbs up or thumbs down to decide what disqualifies you.
Yep.
So you put the system in place with the best of intentions. Like, yes, we want to keep that crazy person who has had done violent crimes before from hurting people. Any reasonable person would agree that it's in society's best interest that those people don't hurt more people.
Right.
You don't have to agree on how, but I think it's easy for everyone to agree that it's probably bad if that people hurt other people. So, maybe legislation gets passed, systems get created and grow and flourish, and in typical bureaucratic fashion, keep clawing a little bit more power and a little bit more power and a little bit more. Sometimes through legislative action, sometimes through just deciding we're going to expand how we enforce this and reinterpret things. And next thing you know, you get an administration who comes in and says, oh no, if you want to have, if you think having more than, pick a number of rounds, 5 rounds, is reasonable, then you're crazy and aggressive and you're probably a domestic terrorist. So if you voted for whatever, if your Facebook page shows whatever, if you click the little smile emoji when someone posted something, anti whatever,
anti or wrong think,
sure, then we think you're mentally unstable and you shouldn't have them, and therefore, we're going to deny your application, or even worse, maybe we need to come get them from you. I mean, how do you stop it? Once you put universal checks in, wait a second, G-Webs, you don't get to withhold the thumb here. You want to hop in with some comments here, G-Webs, you're welcome to. I know G-Webs is a very one of the most aggressive, staunch supporters of the Second Amendment and gun rights that I know.
We need more of them.
He's going to give us the thumbs because we're talking about good stuff here. But I have serious reservations about any scheme that cedes power because it's so hard to get it back. And even if you think like, well, but I like what the people are saying, and I think that they're going to, do good things, and these background checks are gonna help people. Yeah, well, whatever. That's what you think today, but you don't know what's going to happen once you've given them that power, and the next group of people get in. And I'm not even saying I agree with what they would do today, but even if you want to use that argument, you have to think ahead. You can't just think about today and who's in place today. You got to think, wait a second, what has happened historically? Every time you cede power, it attracts people who want to abuse that power. Eventually, someone's going to get in and abuse that power.
Yep. Well, I love looking back at the founding fathers because, I feel so often that we are on the defense, like all the time on guns. It's constantly defense. And if you're constantly on the defense, you're never going to move the needle in the right direction. But I love, I've researched the founding fathers as much as I can. And Benjamin Franklin had a saying, and I think this is a part of natural law. He said, as nations become more corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. Now, what that means is the more immoral we become, the more laws we need to govern ourselves. Because when this country was created, they called it the Great Experiment. And the reason they called it the Great American Experiment is because, well, they were going to try something that hadn't been tried since probably the days of Israel. And that was, are we virtuous enough? Are we responsible enough to be able to take on the ardent task of governing ourselves? And because and before the revolution started, they said, well, we're going to try this out first. So they started living morally. They adhered to the 10 commandments, and they found out that it's not just this list of commandments. It's, oh, if you do this, you're going to hell. If you do that, you're going to hell. No, they're put there because it makes your life better if you're a moral person in most cases. And when society became more moral, they started reaping some of the benefits of that. There was less violence. There was less crime because we were good to one another, not because, just these commandments said so, but because, we cared for one another and had legitimate love. That we are a nation that has become more corrupt and vicious than ever. And that's why you see more and more of these laws pop up. Now, that being said, I feel like we're always on the defense for gunfights, but the offense version of this, and not to get religious or anything, but, George Washington said that religion and morality are indispensable support. He was talking about our public school system, about having religion and morality being taught in the public school system. Now, he had those two together, and it's not just because it was rolling off the tongue. If you just have religion, well, you can have religion that's immoral, because it's made out, man can conjure these things up. But if you just have morality too, that's what we're seeing today. Well, it's immoral to say that a man can't be a woman, right? It's immoral for those things to happen. And there's no foundation to back that up. But, I can send it to you later, but, I've got data. Whenever the Bible was taken out of schools, that's in mid 60s. That's when you see, STDs, out of wedlock births. You see kind of the decay of society just start to skyrocket right there. And, we've got, all you have to do is look on the internet. We've got a victim mentality among all of us. The internet has shown us, and our society has shown us that, if you can prove that you're a victim, then that means you're more moral than the person who's less of a victim than you. But what I'm saying here is we've got to get back to being more virtuous, loving with one another. You want to see gun crime go down? You want to see violent crime go down? We started adhering to some of those things our founding fathers did. You're going to see that. You're going to have less need of masters. And when you do, there is more freedom. So like I said, I didn't want to get religious or anything right there, but that's what I found to be true.
Sure. So let's try a little exercise here, going through the website and talking about different resources that you guys have available.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
If we go into resources, I got a couple of them opened here. And what are people going to find on the Bill Watch page?
You're going to get some updates now if you sign up with the National Association for Gun Rights, especially if you live, in a state that we're, involved with. You are going to get updates about this kind of stuff. You can give us your phone number, and we'll text you if there's something that you can do, especially if you can do. For a bunch of these bills you see right here, these are things that we are fighting from the national level. If you want to go on also, of course, you're going to get updates. It's going to show you what we support, what we're monitoring, something we might be neutral on, but we realize, hey, there might be some anti-gun amendments going on this. We've got a team that is watching that. Now, I'm one of the state guys, so I'm not on this task particularly,
Right.
but what's neat is you can go in here and you can sign petitions to oppose certain bills, to oppose red flag. If you're in a state that doesn't have constitutional carry, there you go. There's one right there. And you put your first name, last name, email, and zip code. The zip code is to determine what district you're in.
Right.
Here's the neat thing about this, Jeff. And there's so many organizations out there, and I can't name them because I don't know who, but I know a lot of organizations. If you're scrolling through Facebook and they want you to sign a petition to, do whatever, I guarantee you most of the time they're just building their lists off of it. They're just using it as advertisement so they can ask you for money later. Now, don't get me wrong. Money is important for an organization. And if you sign up with NAGR, we're going to give you opportunity to help us deliver petitions, deliver as much political pain to politicians who deserve it. But at the same time, these petitions actually get delivered. I know the security, I've heard at DC, our guys go up there and they go up there and they've got all these petitions, and security looks at them like they got three heads. And they're like, well, we just got petitions these are from their constituents. They need to see them. They said, nobody ever does this. So we do this on the state level as well. So, if you're a member of PGR or Florida Gun Rights or any of those that I mentioned before, they actually do get delivered. And there is no better way to make an anti-gun politician, whether they're Republican or Democrat, and sometimes especially if they're Republican, turn either ghost white or three different shades of red when you plop down several thousand petitions or a stack of petitions this big and say, these are from your constituents. You better vote right.
Yeah. Right. Okay, good. So another option, state affiliates. So
Yep.
We talked before about how you're in South Carolina and there are others. So this is where you can go to find out where they all are.
That's it. And our headquarters is actually out in Colorado, and Rocky Mountain Gun Owners has been doing a fantastic job out there. They are in a very rough state as far as gun rights go. They have been fighting tooth and nail against an assault weapons ban, and it's been a real big tug of war. They're finally down to the last 30 days of legislature, and we don't know when it's going to be introduced, how it's going to be introduced, but we are fully expecting for the Democrats to put something up and try to slide it across the line right at the last minute. Right. But yeah, we've got people in each one of those states that you see that are in the red. They're there, they're on the ground, they see what's going on, and they actually go down to the capitals. We're not in those particular ones. We're definitely not out of staters just coming in and doing and fighting for the Second Amendment. We're there. I get to enjoy constitutional carry now. Hey, I've been wearing it around the house just because.
Right. Yeah.
So I know North Carolina's probably next, and that's something I haven't been able to dive into just yet as far as politically. I don't know, Jeff, do you have any opinions on how easy or how hard that's going to be? Can you fill me in for what I'm about to get my hands into?
I don't want to, because I don't want to discourage you.
Man, I've been in South Carolina for so long. I understand.
So, but I'll kind of relate it to something. One of my kids is looking for college internships and is getting worried about, the trouble finding them, and then how that's going to translate into the job finding process, when he graduates. And I've said, the world works whether you're looking for a job or trying to pass legislation or whatever. Unfortunately, it often comes down to relationships, and especially I I think the more powers involved, the more relationship dependent it often is, and that's sad. And like, we were founded to avoid that, at least ostensibly on paper. That's not the way it's supposed to work.
Yep.
But I mean, you mentioned political capital earlier. I mean, I literally had a state senator tell me he agreed with me on what I was fighting for. Oh yeah, completely agree with you.
But I can't help you out now.
I can't burn the political capital to make that happen. And then all it took was getting the right person. So, so what I would say about what's your fight going to be like? Hey, depends on who you know. Depends on if you know the right people. You know the right people, they can make things a whole lot easier. And it really pisses me off. You know, it's like not all voices are created equal. It's like the voices that the people in charge are created much more equal. And that's incredibly annoying.
DJs want to know, what do the colors on the map represent? Some of them are constitutional carry states. The red ones are where we actually have state groups there. The yellow ones are the constitutional carry states that we've gotten it passed in. I know it's actually been amazing, DJ. You would not imagine how fast like some of this stuff has rolled. When I first joined the National Association for Gun Rights, that'll be 4 years in June. We had, I think, 15 states, and they have doubled in the last 4 years. So, you know, I know things can look negative, but you've got at least one gun rights organization in some of these states that are, and some of the grassroots ones are doing a fantastic job as well. And sometimes we come in and give them that extra firepower that they need to, you know, drive home some of that political pressure. But yeah, the yellow ones, those are constitutional carry states, and hopefully that North Carolina one will be turning yellow one day. And like I said, it takes years because it's a long-term fight. But the thing is we got to prove to politicians that we will come back. They know how to make you shut up and go away. And I'll give you an example. In South Carolina, was we started pushing constitutional carry really, really hard. And a politician is going to do the least amount of work that they can. They're going to give you as little as they can. And so they started floating an open carry bill. And some gun owners might think, oh, well, that's a good idea. That's a good thing. And it's, theoretically, it is. But that's not what we were demanding. That's not what gun owners wanted. And we knew what that was. We knew that it was an attempt to get us to shut up and go away and push constitutional carry way on down the road. The chairman of the committee is a guy named Micah Caskey. He is a member of what we call the Rhino Caucus down there. When I first met him, it was my first time in the political offices of Columbia. And I handed him my testimony. I said, hey, if I don't get to do it today, I just want to have you have a copy of it. He's like, oh, yeah, it's not like I haven't seen this thing 100,000 times this morning, because we had been sending, emails to his inbox. And he said, listen, I'm with you, but you don't know what the hell you're talking about. We can't just do that. And I was like, no, sir, you can. And you can bet that if leadership wants something passed, and you've probably seen, in your own life, if leadership wants something passed, it'll get passed 2 weeks, easy, done.
Yeah.
It wasn't 2 weeks later, we were bringing up constitutional carry in his conference committee. And that's because we didn't back down. We weren't placated. We weren't that little puppy dog at the Thanksgiving table that's just begging for scraps, Sure. That's one thing, we talk about in our training. We don't want you to be that puppy dog. We want you to be this German Shepherd that jumps up on the table, eats the turkey leg, and maybe if the politician's lucky, they get a side of gravy, because just voting right is not enough to get a pat on the back from us. You're supposed to vote right anyways, we didn't fight open carry at all, but we didn't take that as the win that some other people would have, because we knew the closer you get that football to the end zone, the harder it is to make a touchdown. And, we weren't placated. We kept driving home constitutional carry. And you know what? It took 4 years after that, but we ended up getting it. And it's cleaner than a lot of the other constitutional carry bills that are across the nation right now. Not as clean as I want it to be, but, like I said, it never ceases to amaze me just how hard you got to twist arms to make them press the right button. It's that simple. Press the right button, we'll leave you alone. Thank you, DJ. I appreciate that.
Sure. Let's see. So, and DJ, by the way, I think was out at SHOT Show I don't know if he ever made it in the building. I think he was supporting gun websites and some of their stuff, and may not actually made it. I was hoping to meet him when we were out there, and didn't get to. It's something he hadn't been able to do yet. But first time I've seen him since then, had a chance to comment on that. Let's see. So you got news stories, so people can keep up to date on what's happening.
Yeah.
And you know, I think as we see the different things that different states are doing popping up as news stories there, it also kind of brings me back to what we were talking about with well, we didn't touch on it exactly. Being in North Carolina, I got scared a couple years ago watching north of me in Virginia, where they had, I believe, a supermajority, and they threw everything and the kitchen sink, and then they made some shit up to throw as well. I think there were over 140 anti-gun bills in one session, and it seemed to be a test that the party was watching nationwide to see how many do we have to throw at the wall before we can overwhelm them and get this idea of compromise through. Like, hey, if the expectation is we're going to compromise on things, then just keep throwing things at the wall.
That's right.
Some of them will get through. And when I saw that it worked for them and they got a few things through, and then we had organizations celebrating, oh, well, we beat this one and that one. I'm like, do you see all the terrible things that got passed that shouldn't even been talked about, let alone getting passed? And now you're going to celebrate the super egregious ones that you were able to defend, but then those other ones made it through.
Yep. And you know, that's why it's so important not to compromise on this stuff. You know, we talked about another gun rights organization earlier, Negotiating Rights Away. They have a very bad habit. And I know we're gearing up in New Mexico right now for a possible special session that's geared towards gun control. And because we put down some pressure out there so far, they're backing off on their rhetoric, but that doesn't mean that we back off on the pressure. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll get a Republican senator in there or somebody to make a bad bill better. And that is the worst thing that you can possibly do, because what it does is it allows a very bad bill. It makes it more palatable for it to pass. Yeah. And that's what happens when you go to these compromise tables is you take something that might not have passed before, but now because you compromise, well, guess what? Now it's going to pass. Or being the devil's advocate, you could say, well, you know, we could have got something much worse. Well, here's the deal. If you're linking the legislative and the election season together, guess what? If they want to vote for a red flag bill and pass a red flag bill right off the bat that, you know, doesn't have any compromise in it, it's just a plain flat out bad bill, you can rake some Republicans over the coals for voting for something like that. But if they compromise, you know, the Republicans will end up voting for it and saying, well, I voted for it because it prevented us from getting something much worse. I would much rather go against some politicians in the election cycle and expose their bad votes on a purely bad bill than something that gives them an excuse and gives them a way to shield themselves from grassroots pressure. Compromising on that stuff is extremely dangerous. Second Amendment, exactly to your point.
Well, yeah. Well, there's one guarantee when you compromise, and that's you're losing something.
Yeah.
And, you know, there may not be a guarantee that you're going to save everything when you're no compromise, but at least there's no guarantee that you're going to lose something.
And a lot of times you'll be surprised. There's a lot of fear mongering. Oh, we're going to get something worse. What happens when you stand up to the schoolyard bully? They back down, don't they? Well, when gun rights activists stand up to the to the political class, they usually end up backing down. They hold this threat of, you know, give me your lunch money or I'm going to beat you up. Pass this compromise bill or we're going to pass something worse. When you look at them and say, fine, pass something worse and see what happens, a lot of times they end up backing off of that because a lot of them are in districts that they're not comfortable enough in to be able to vote for something egregious as something like an assault weapons ban or red flag gun confiscation or universal background checks. When you stand up to the schoolyard bully, they'll more often than you think they back down, and that's what we found to be true.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Yeah, and then sneaking things in like DJ was mentioning.
Yeah.
in bigger bills. That tends to be pretty popular. I've seen as well. All right, we're almost out of time, and typically on this show, this week Gear Report, we have an agenda where we talk about recent reviews. We've skipped that tonight. We have more important things to talk about. Things will be published soon. I can tell you I have 6 what are they called? Pending articles right now. That means we could have drafts pending or published. Drafts, what we're working on, and there's hundreds of them in the draft category. We have a few 6 pending from a variety of different authors. Those will get published pretty soon. And as far as what's coming beyond that, who knows? We got so many things in the pipeline. It's hard to say.
Awesome.
TJ, I should have mentioned TJ, our co-host, our perpetual co-host, for the duration of this week of Gear Report is in. He's on the east coast of Florida. They had some storms pass through. He sent me a text about an hour before the program and said a storm knocked out our internet. I don't know if I'm going to make it tonight. And of course, I had some choice words for him, but I also understand that it's out of his control. So that's why TJ's not here. We haven't had Repeal the NFA or Boo ATF on the screen nearly as much as we normally do this week. And Kevin checked out, so he will not be doing the patch of the week like we normally do. But the last segment, the other segment, the Gun Snob's favorite segment ever, we are going to do real quick, and I'm going to keep it super quick because it has to do with one of our other channels, and that is Guitarmageddon. All right, we're going to do it really quick, all right? Because I have 3 things that I'm going to show you. I'm going to tell you there's going to be more up on the Guitar Gear Report video channel on Rumble, and maybe some written stuff on Gear Report. A new guitar just showed up from the Fender Musical Instrument Company, their Squire brand. They sent me one of their new, they call it the Debut Series. It's their new budget guitar. And for $120 on Amazon, this is actually a very nice guitar that played well out of the box, slightly thinner than like a Mexican or a USA Fender, but it has a lot of things going for it that you typically wouldn't find in that in the kind of sub $300 to $500 range. And to me, this is a shot across the bow. We don't see this much in the gun community where a brand will strategically bring something that is way better than it should be for its price point so they can box out some of their competitors and hurt them. That's what Fender's doing. A lot of Chinese companies have been bringing really cheap guitars like this is probably about the equal. Gear It is a company. You never heard of them. They're a new Chinese company. This is probably the equal of a $750 Mexican Fender, and it was $98 shipped off of Amazon. Freaking crazy.
Goodness. Right? That's the Wish version, huh?
Well, it pretty much is. And it's something we hadn't seen in a lot of other industries where they're just getting their legs chopped out from under them. So Fender here has brought, I'm going to call it a $250, $300 guitar to the market for $120 to try to hurt some of their competitors. Also kind of copying Fender from Ghostfire. We have a very, very nice padded gig bag with some extra straps and a neck holder inside that is that's actually came in to go with that other one. And I'm not even going to open it. We have a powered pedal board that's in this bag that we'll look at. I'm going to unbox that the rest of the way and do a video on it to put up on the Guitar Gear Report channel. We'll do the case. We've already got a couple videos up. Actually, nope. They're only on Amazon. I put those videos on Amazon. I haven't put them on the Guitar Gear Report channel. We'll get some up on that Squire Debut Series here shortly. And
now, do you have any YouTube videos of you playing? That's kind of what I'm interested in.
A little bit. I'm not a very good guitar player. I've been reviewing gear since 2009.
You're probably better than me.
Thousands of products. We have the Guitar Gear Report channel has got over 100 videos, and I play in a lot of them. But I
will check that out. That's cool.
Yeah. So let's see, where else was I going to go here? I had some, oh, and then the Humvee stuff. So I've been kind of light on the Humvee videos. You may recall, folks, from last week, I had a whole bunch. We looked at some videos on the Rumble channel, which is duplicated. So for everything but Guitar Gear Report, we have a version on the YouTubes. We have it on Rumble, and stuff gets automatically copied to some other things like Odyssey. But let's see. Oh, that's on the wrong one here. Let me get over here. And this is the Humvee channel. I haven't put anything up in a little while because I've been working on garage organization. It just got out of control, and I had to spend some time cleaning and reorganizing, and picked up a new toolbox and some things. But you can see on the guitar channel, we've got a couple for that Fender debut series that are up, and then a whole bunch of Humvee videos. We should see a whole lot more Humvee videos coming in the next week or two. James should be here maybe next week to install the new fuel injection pump and get that the Battlewagon 4 running. Once it's running and I can move it around a little easier, then I can start on some of the other upgrades that we're going to do and configuration and whatnot. So those projects are moving forward. We're going to do some cool stuff with those. DJ says Fender's Paranormal series needs to expand. Yeah, those are kind of neat. I don't know that I've played any of those, but conceptually, I like the look of them. They the Paranormal series is taking some of their kind of standard designs and putting a tweak on them that makes you kind of turn your head sideways and go, "What am I looking at here?" And they've got some really neat stuff. So yeah. Cool.
Speaking of vehicles, we are giving away a Toyota Tacoma through the National Association for Gun Rights.
Thank you.
And you can look that up. I'll post it. Do you mind if I post a video in the chat?
You can try. You may have to put it in the private chat and let me post it.
There we go. That's I got a little gaming channel on the side, but on that one, if you skip to 714, you can see some pretty cool stuff. So of what it looks like, and you can go to nationalgunrights.org and sign up to win that as well. So it's pretty
excellent. Cool. All right. Well, hopefully people will check that out in the comments and take a look at that. Thanks for bearing with me through the housekeeping we had to do there at the end.
No problem.
And thanks for being here. I really do appreciate you and what you do,
yes,
and taking the time to come talk to us here. Thanks to the folks who showed up out there in the chat. I know we lost some people because I had a tech issue and got started about 10 minutes late. And we have a very punctual audience that is used to us starting on time. So thanks everyone for showing up and contributing in the chat if you did so. We will be back, as the ticker says at the bottom, next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Every Thursday, pretty much. I said that. I've got one coming up in a couple weeks. I will be on a cruise ship and not available. So we'll see if we can get TJ to run that one. And you know what? Until next time, here's what we do. All right. There's no pressure on you. Let me get this Guitar Mageddon off of here. We're done with that. So I made the mistake, Tommy, one time. It was actually an old sponsor of the program. Sylvan Arms sponsors the program now. We love them. We appreciate them. They make some really cool stuff. A prior gun manufacturer that was a sponsor, we had their rep on, and we did a whole show about them. And as we're wrapping up, I said, here's what we do. I'm going to point at the camera, and everyone points your finger like right up at the camera lens. I'll say, until next time, and I'll point and say, we'll see you at the range. And it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what we do. We started doing it.
That's totally cool.
Over 100 shows ago. And I said, here's what we're going to do. And he just looked at the camera and said, dude, I'm not doing that. I was like, whoa.
I'll do it.
So
what's wrong with
there's
that?
no pressure. That's what I'm saying, is there's no pressure. If you want to participate, you can. But I'm not going to lean on you and say, give you a hard time or anything. All right.
Here we go. Pull this off. Right. Oh, and real quick, by the way, we didn't get enough boo the ATF in here tonight.
Sorry.
I do want to send your attention to our foundation. Just a real quick shout out. That would get the booze going really good. We're suing the crap out of the ATF on multiple fronts. Just want to let you know that on FRTs, pistol braces, stuff like that. We are taking them to court. We're taking one of them to the Supreme Court, and we need your help on the foundation too. So, Jeff, thank you so much, man, for having me on tonight. It's been really great to talk to you guys. And, you know, if you want to support a real gun rights organization that is no compromise, that doesn't take, you know, placation as excuses, but just defend your gun rights, NAGR is it. And I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Until next, warm your finger up, brother. Until next time, we'll see you at the range.
See you at the range.